So there are many ways to tackle pests and diseases. Some are cultural, some are biological, some are chemical based. But let's look back thousands of years ago. The farmers used to have bumper harvests, but they never used any chemicals. There's no evidence that they used any chemicals. What was their key ingredient? This is what we're going to be talking about today. A healthy plant is more resistant to pests and diseases. The same with us humans. When you're healthy, you can actually get a cold. It will actually disappear in a short period of time. But when you're not healthy, you can actually go for 10 days more with the same cold. So the secret also lies in plants, because they are also living organisms. If your plant is actually healthy, it can actually resist pests, it can actually resist the diseases. Your plant's health is directly proportional to your plant's resistance to pests and diseases. The healthier the plant, the more resistant it is to pests and diseases. And the less healthier the plant, the more it's susceptible to pests and diseases. So what are the tools that ensure that your plant is healthy? You're going to be looking at your nutrition. You're going to be looking at your Brix level. You're also going to be looking at the forgotten ingredient, which is your water. And you're also going to be looking at things like mulch. Managing pests and diseases with plant nutrition, why agriculture becomes a science. So there's one key measurement which is actually overlooked in farming, but it can actually transform and revolutionize your farming, so to speak. And the one key measurement is the Brix measurement. This is how you are going to measure your plants in terms of sap, in terms of the sugar content in the plant. Why this is very critical and important is because it's going to save you a lot of costs in terms of managing pests. The adage or the rule, the thumb rule is the higher the Brix in the plant, the better it's going to resist pests. If it's between 6 and 8, it means aphids are going to fall away. 8 to 10, sap sucking. 10 to 12, chewing insects are also going to fall away. So basically, if you take your Brix reading and it's below 6, it means you're going to have pests such as aphids. If your Brix reading is actually slightly above 8, it means you're going to have your sap-sucking pests. But the idea of having a good Brix reading in your plants is you're going to save a lot of money, resources. In this regard, your shelf life for your fruit, be it for your plants, is actually going to be better. So if you're going to be supplying anywhere in the market, you're guaranteed your tomato crop, your pepper crop, your cucumber crop, even your mangoes, if you are into fruit production, is actually going to have a shelf life which is actually better. And you're also guaranteed of the quality of the crop, so to speak. So we want to actually zoom in and analyze basically why Brix is very, very important and how it will actually save you on your money. I'll give you an example of a tomato, which happens to be sunshine worshipper. It's a crop which requires a whole amount of sunlight, and sunlight by its virtue increases your Brix. But there come a point where it's actually overcast, the sunshine cover is very low, and your plant is actually going to suffer. So how are you going to actually increase your Brix? How are you actually going to feed your crop? So the key ingredient or the missing ingredient in the whole farming spectrum becomes the sun. Not actually water per se, but the sun, because it's the missing energy. Plants make all their food through photosynthesis. So the sun is basically the one that's going to help you to actually increase your Brix. But if you don't have the sun, how are you going to supplement the sun? in terms of the quality of your fruit. So let's look at it this way. The only way you're going to see it is some people use mulch, and some regard mulching as being used to actually save water, to actually suppress the weeds. But the whole critical element why mulch becomes critical and important is because mulch traps heat. And once the heat is actually trapped, this plant can then actually transfer that heat back to the plant. This is mostly like you've put your phone on the way you put your phone on the charger. It's the same applies how you're going to put your crop on the charger. So the whole idea is, are you able to actually put your plant on the charger? The only way you can actually do that is to have your mulch. The mulch is going to trap a whole lot of heat, and when it's overcast, that heat is actually going to be transferred to the plant. So I want to talk about mulching. Mulching is something a lot of people actually think mulching is only used to conserve moisture, to suppress the weeds. But mulching plays a key pivotal role in trapping heat. Tomatoes, peppers, they are sunshine worshippers, meaning they actually need a lot of heat, a lot of sunlight so that they can actually thrive. So when it's overcast, it means this tomato is actually going to suffer, the pepper is going to suffer. So what we then do is, once we have our mulch, we are trapping the heat. When there's no sunshine cover, the heat that is trapped in the mulch will actually assist the crop. It will give the crop the energy it requires to do different activities, such as moving all the nutrients in the food, fruit formation, cell formation, all those kind of things. So at the end of the day, if you have a good mulch, you are going to have a good crop, because all your heat energy is going to be stored in there and it's going to be transferred to the crop. So there are different types of mulching that are used. You'd find that a lot of farmers and greenhouse farmers, they use plastic mulch, which is where they're putting the black plastic mulch around. And some farmers, they actually use the grass mulch, leaf mulch, straw mulch. All that is type of mulching. But let's look at the pros and cons of these types of mulches.
A lot of people ask me all the time, is it just an ordinary plastic that we can use for plastic mulching? And the answer is no. There is a specific type of plastic that is used for plastic mulching. And the beauty about this plastic is that at the top it's black in color, meaning that in times when there is less sunlight, it is able to attract heat, which is good for the crop. Underneath the plastic, it is a silver lining, which also helps to regulate the heat to create a conducive environment for the crop. Now you may ask me, so what are the benefits of using the plastic mulching? Number one, it creates a very good environment for the crop in terms of regulating temperature, regulating moisture, regulating humidity, and all that. And number two, it also suppresses weed growth. It means that in your crop, you will never face a problem with weeds, because all the weeds are covered by the plastic, so there'll be no weeds at all completely. So when it comes to weeding, all you will do is hand weeding right by the crop. That's all you will do. The rest of the greenhouse or the rest of your field, you don't really have to worry about weeds. How is that a benefit to the farmer? You can imagine throughout the season how much you would invest in employing people that will come and do weeding for you. And if it's during the rain season, you do your weeding almost on a weekly basis, if not more than once a week. Now all this cost is cut if you use plastic mulching. It's a once-off cost. You lay your plastic at the time of planting, and it will last you throughout the crop. So it means that you never need to employ people to come and do any weeding. Now, all this money you're saving increases your profitability, it increases your bottom line. So it is time you take mulching seriously and take farming as a business. It also helps during extreme temperatures, like when it's too hot or when it's too cold. The plastic mulch will help you to create that good environment that helps your crop to fight the extreme weather. So a plastic mulch is a big advantage for the farmer, and it's something that each farmer must have in your greenhouse. It will help you to get the best out of your crop. It will help you to make sure that the fertilizer that you feed into your crop is not all consumed by the weeds, but it will go straight to your crop, boosting your productivity. It will boost your fruit size. It will boost the crop vigor and give you the best results as a farmer.
So with black mulching, it's black as it is. In a greenhouse, it's also hot, so it's going to trap a whole lot of heat, and this is suitable to different types of soils. These are sandy soils. It's a type of mulch that you can actually use for sandy soils. But in other areas where the soil is clay-like, it means you can't actually adopt this type of mulching. Moreover, it's an expensive type of mulching where you're going to use a lot of resources. But if you're going to be using straw mulch in an open field, it's actually a cheaper type of mulch, which is actually easily accessible, easy to find, easy to apply. So when you're actually going with the type of mulch, it all depends with your available resources.
I have used both grass mulching and plastic mulching. The two are very good. Both do very well. But however, the grass mulching has got disadvantages compared to the plastic mulching. The grass does not really help to attract heat, for example, during the cold seasons. Unlike the black plastic, which attracts heat and helps to also contain the heat. The grass doesn't do that. The grass would benefit the farmer the most during times when there's sufficient sunlight and sufficient heat. But if we need to attract more heat, then the grass doesn't do that. That's something that the plastic does very, very well. And also, the grass is a natural way of managing temperature, managing water levels, but it's not as good as the plastic in the sense that the efficiency of the grass depends on your efficiency in applying the grass. If you apply too little, then it means that the temperature, the moisture will not last long because of the high temperatures. If you apply too much as well, you may have a scenario whereby you may then start getting damp environments within your crops. Unlike the plastic, there is no applying more or applying less, because it's a standard thing and it's lab tested, it's efficient, and it's been done to industry standard. So there is no room for human error when you use the plastic, unlike the grass, where people may apply too much grass or too little grass. And again, as you water more and more, your grass mulching will start to decay with time, unlike the plastic. In as much as you may put a lot of water or less water, the plastic does not decay. It will last you throughout the whole season, unlike the grass, which may end up starting to decay. Sometimes you may have a scenario where there are termites in your farm. The grass mulching will also be affected by termites, unlike the plastic. It doesn't get affected by the termites, so you will not need to worry about controlling termites if you're using the plastic. The plastic is also very easy to dispose compared to the grass, because once some of the grass has decayed or is rotten, then it's sort of difficult for you to dispose it, unlike the plastic. Once we remove the plastic mulching, we look for companies that recycle the plastic, we give them, and they recycle the plastic. So there's no damage to the environment whatsoever, as long as you dispose of the plastic in the right way.
So we are saying it's a sin to see the soil. You must never leave the soil bare. You must never leave your soil naked. You can see everyone will actually be dressed in clothes. The soil should also be covered. And the moment we protect our soils, then our plants are going to thrive. We need also to understand that we don't grow crops, we don't grow plants, we grow the soil. So mulching then plays a key pivotal role in covering our soil. Not only does it cover the soil, but it covers the microbes, the small little tiny microorganisms that live in the soil that help your plant. These are important if you're actually going to have a healthy crop. So the soil becomes your living organism. The soil is very important because this is where your plant is going to grow. So you need to take care of your soil. You find today the soil is one of the things that is being listed to becoming extinct in the next 10, 20 years to come. People are already selling soil, something we can actually take care of if we mulch very well. You go anywhere in the forest, you won't see bare soil. The soil is covered. This is how we need to grow our crops. The next two is nutrition. Nutrition is how best you're going to feed your crop, how best your crop is going to find different types of nutrients. I'll give you a good example. Every crop requires nitrogen, but what's the most abundant gas in the atmosphere? It's nitrogen. But nitrogen is the most abused element with all the farmers. While it's actually something which is for free. 78% of the gas is nitrogen. So this is how I need you to understand why nutrition is important. The moment you apply nitrogen, a lot of nitrogen to your crops, it's going to use a whole lot of energy to be digested by the crop. Example is someone who's just eaten sadza. You're going for an exam, you've eaten your sadza. Just as you try, it takes a whole lot of energy for the sadza to be digested within your body. This is why you tend to feel like you want to sleep. It same applies with the plant. It takes a whole lot of energy, 30% to be precise, for the plant to break down the nitrogen. And once the nitrogen is broken down, it means that whole energy is lost. And the plant's Brix level, sugar level, is actually going to plummet, is actually going to go down. So eventually, you're going to see that pests are going to come, aphids are going to come, because the energy of the plant is actually at its lowest level. This is why in the rural areas, our grandmothers used to plant the three sisters: your beans, your maize, and your pumpkins. The whole idea was to get your nitrogen fixation from your beans, from your legumes. So instead, there is one key element which is overlooked, but which can actually change the whole course of nitrogen abuse, which is molybdenum. If you can actually have molybdenum in your field, in your crop, with your crop, then you are going to save a whole lot of money, because molybdenum is the element responsible for taking or assimilating the nitrogen in the atmosphere and giving it to your crop. So instead, some farmers will then grow their crops with beans, peas, different types of legumes. But the idea is to know that the higher the nitrogen, the more nitrates in your crop, the more aphids that are actually going to be attracted to your crop, the more tutor that is actually going to come to your crop. So we must not use a whole lot of nitrogen. There's a thumb rule in agriculture. We say a little less of anything is better than a more of something. So I just want to help farmers to actually realize how they can actually save their crops from excessive nitrogen. We have a simple ratio, the carbon to nitrogen ratio. The more nitrogen, if you have more nitrogen in your soil, what are you going to do? You need to have carbon. You need to take your leaves, you need to take your straw, your murakwani, you need to put it in your crops. So there is one thing we need to understand, that if we're going to have the carbon to nitrogen ratio 1:25 to be precise, you are actually going to have your microorganisms thrive, and you're actually going to have your crop healthier. Let me explain how the plant and the microbes, their symbiotic relationship. When the plant is, during daylight, the plant is making its energy through photosynthesis. It's actually getting more energy, it's actually making all the sugars that it needs for all the activities within the body of the crop. Then in the evening, all that energy is then transferred through the roots and extruded to the microbes. The microbes are responsible for mining all the key nutrients within the soil, also responsible for breaking down all the minerals for the crop to actually assimilate, to actually easy digestion for the crop. So in the evening, the plant extrudes all that, it gives the food to the microbes. The microbes then give the plant all that food in return. This is a symbiotic relationship which happens between the microbes in the soil and the crop. The problems lies when there is no sun. 4 or 5 days it's overcast, it's raining. The plant cannot make enough energy, enough food for the microbes. The microbes then turn against the plant. Because the plant is at its weakest level, there is no sunlight, there is no energy, it's weak, the microbes need to feed, they don't have the food, there is no food in the soil, the microbes will attack the plant. So instead, your mulching, your cover, then helps to trap the heat that is responsible to give the plant that heat, so that once it has the heat, it's going to transfer that energy to the microbes. So basically, you, to be a good farmer, you need to understand that the plant requires the second sun. Your second sun is very, very important. It's critical. There lies in your mulch. Once your mulching breaks down, it's disintegrating, it forms something we call humic and fulvic acids. This becomes your second sun. It's just like someone who's put their phones on a charger. So we also put our crops on a charger. Nutrition, we are going to be looking at antagonistic elements and synergistic elements. This is where a lot of farmers struggle. How then do you know if you've got a calcium deficiency? Does it really mean that your plant does not have enough calcium? My simple answer is sometimes no. The plant might have a calcium deficiency, but it might actually have calcium which is actually locked inside, in the soil, in the plant, so to speak. So antagonistic elements becomes the elements that actually cannot work together. If you apply excessive nitrogen, it's going to lock out calcium, and your plant is going to have a calcium deficiency. If you go to the local shop where you're going to actually ask for help, they're going to say your plant is actually lacking calcium. But does it mean that it's lacking calcium? It's a no. There's excessive nitrogen. So how then do you know that you need to apply a certain type of nutrient? How are you going to unlock what has been locked?